All right, guys, welcome back to another episode, Persuasion by the Pint. I'm Jonathan Taylor, along with
Sean McCool.
And Sean, today is kind of a special day. You're getting ready to move in a week, so this will be officially our last time. I know we've been away from the office for studio / probably a few weeks now. We've been visiting some places, but this is where we all started. I mean, this is where we started the podcast. So right here. But you'll be out in Texas, but we'll still be doing it every week. It'll just be...
Yeah, so we got 2 or 3 episodes here today that we'll get in the can, and then we'll have to figure out the whole virtual and,
how's that?
Try to get the sound right and all Zoom. That with that, so...
Got to get some audio equipment and stuff like that going.
Definitely got to
make it happen.
Zoom recorder and that stuff.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. So we're gonna, like you said, spend a few episodes today knocking out some stuff on an interesting book or a book we mentioned last week that we would be touching on. Yeah.
So I'll tease it a little bit here.
Yes, you're so good at teasing.
So I'm packing, at the house. So I've got hundreds of books in the house. Most of them are mine. My wife has a few cookbooks and things like that, but for the most part, they're my books, and they're
so sexist.
I know. 95% are nonfiction. Right. Well, if you count the cookbooks, it's 99% nonfiction.
Right.
Lots of marketing, copywriting, sales. Then I've got my whole, coaching sections, and I've got different sections for each one. But I was thinking about it on the way over here. I was like, if I had to cut books, because I was like, do I cut back on some books? Do I take them with me? And
that's a tough choice.
Yeah, I pretty much decided to keep the majority of them.
Yeah,
few got cut, but not very many. But I was thinking about, I was like, if I had to, like this book that we're going to talk about over the next few episodes is one, it's probably the book that I refer back to and actually pull out while I'm working and writing copy.
Okay.
More than any other book. Like it's kind of my go-to. One is partly because I think the format is like easy to skim and get ideas through because there's some good, it's got pictures, that helps.
Yeah.
Instead of just words.
Draws your attention immediately.
So it's like, for that reason, it's one that would definitely make a cut. It'd be on my short. If I had to put everything on one shelf, it'd be on that shelf for sure.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm excited to talk about it. But before we jump in,
we've got some snacks and some brew today.
Yeah, you surprised me. I did not know that it's National Donut Day.
It is National Donut Day.
And you stopped by and got us some donuts to go with our beer.
Right.
So we have paired our snacks and our beer today. Yeah. So we've got.
We're definitely not counting calories here.
No.
Because
not with the beer lineup we have today, and then throw in some donuts. So this is called Nutter Cup, and it's chocolate peanut butter porter.
Boy, I just picked up this can, and the peanut butter cup just hit me hard.
Oh yeah,
I love it too.
Like it is very chocolate. The only other one, there's Sweet Baby Jesus is another peanut butter porter that smells almost exactly like this. But so it's not a super. So it is a porter, and I think it's 6.5% alcohol. Yeah, 6.5%. The can jumped out at me on the shelf. Like it's a very cartoony kind of looking can. I put a picture in the show notes, but peanuts died to make this beer awesome.
Yeah. Yep.
That's good.
Some cool copy.
That's some good envelope copy right there. And it's got a picture of a peanut being cracked in half.
That's right.
Looking like he's dying. So.
Yeah. I mean, so you feel guilty if you don't drink it all, knowing that several peanuts risk their
And I think the brewing company, I'm having a hard time reading it because my eyes are getting old.
Yeah.
Is BrewLink.
Yep.
Brewing company.
I saw that earlier. Yes, BrewLink.
In Plainfield, Indiana.
Wow.
So cool. I like it.
So this would go, if we were judging by design, branding, design, all that
Yeah,
stuff.
the envelope copy and the teaser and the envelope, the whole envelope is really good. So if we were using direct mail terms, like it's a good envelope.
Right.
Like I would open it. I did open it.
I would.
So
cheers.
Cheers. This has been airing for about probably 10 or 15 minutes now.
Okay.
Man, these they like hit you hard when you drink these.
They do.
I found that they tend to, like, every sip they get a little bit better.
I was expecting it to be a little sweeter, and I'm actually glad that it's not, considering what we're
Pairing it with a donut.
It,
So you picked the pink donut with sprinkles. I picked the chocolate because I figured proven.
Don't let this
Chocolate.
Don't judge me, okay?
I figured chocolate and peanut butter was a proven combination.
Well, that's true.
So that's what I went with. I'm sure people love listening to us chew on the podcast. So,
that's good. That's a good combo.
Yeah, I like the
So by the time you listen to this podcast, obviously, National Donut Day has passed.
Yeah.
And you may have missed it, but if you did,
you make up for
you
it.
have our permission to go back and take advantage.
Relive that day.
So
just do it on a Thursday and be Throwback Thursday.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe I'll start doing that every Thursday. Like every Thursday, I'm going to do a Throwback Thursday to National Donut Day.
No, that's good. I like it.
Yeah.
I really do.
Starting to settle in for you.
You're right. You give it a little airtime.
Mm-hmm.
And that is good. So, I brought my copy too.
Yeah.
Mine's a little, you can see mine's
Yours
a
has
little
been
dated.
in the sun.
Weathered.
Was this in the window somewhere?
Actually, I picked this up at a used bookstore about 5 years ago.
I actually have a hardback copy as well.
Do you?
That I keep on the bookshelf. But this copy has helped me write some nice promotions. It's kind of got me out of writer's block or out of a kind of a little bit of a stalemate sometimes. It'll spark an idea or whatever.
Yeah. This is definitely one, like you said, to keep close to the.
And if you're not looking on YouTube, then what this is Ogilvy on advertising.
Yep. So the fun thing about getting used books is you can see what other people have underlined.
Yeah, it's like a
and see what
Kindle
they
before the Kindle.
Yeah, exactly. I love that because you get the kind of the vague highlighter underline with the Kindle. In this, you can find out like the person before you. Obviously, sometimes you see the things that they highlight or underline, thinking, "What? Why was that so important?" But it's interesting to see. What people found.
Talking about highlights in Kindle, I've always wondered, like, first of all, when does it says how many people have highlighted it?
Yeah.
Like, when does it click over to start showing that? And then how much of the highlighting is because other people highlighted?
Well, I'm guilty.
Yeah.
I do it because I see, it's that social proof thing.
Yeah, exactly.
I jump on board. This must be,
this must be worth highlighting. So I'll go ahead and re-highlight the highlight because I want to feel smart.
It's not strong enough. I need to put my little highlight down.
I don't want to miss out. I want to feel smart.
Right.
So, well, I'll open us up on this book.
I made some notes. So, you go ahead and get.
So I was, we were talking about this morning a little bit over text. And I said, we could just do like the first paragraph in the first chapter.
Right.
And call it a day.
Absolutely.
Because if you get that paragraph, it's like, I mean, that's everything. So what David Ogilvy says, and he's the one Don Draper from Mad Men is kind of modeled after.
Yeah.
So kind of looks like him in that picture.
Still have not seen that whole series yet. I've gone through the first season, but
I haven't seen the whole. I've seen bits and pieces, but I've never just like sat and watched the whole thing. Mm-hmm. So David Ogilvy says in the opening paragraph, he says, I do not regard advertising as entertainment or an art form, but as a medium of information. When I write an advertisement, I don't want you to tell me that you find it creative. I want you to find it so interesting that you buy the product.
Yeah.
When some Greek guy spoke, they said how well he speaks, but when Demosthenes, I did not take Greek and literature or whatever that is in college. When he spoke, they said, let us march against Philip. So I can tell you, like, personally, you probably had this happen too, but when I used to do in-home sales, I would do this presentation. I mean, I would think that I nailed it. And like the little old lady across the table from me would be like, "Oh, that was such a good presentation." But I don't think it's for me today. It just like every single time it just like, oh, it's like a dagger through the heart. And I was like, great, I did another nice presentation. And I'm walking out with nothing.
You're such a sweet, kind young man, and you went to so much effort. You did such a good job. That's not what you want to hear.
No, that's like...
You want them signing a contract or...
Right, like buy the product. And, that's what Ogilvy's saying. It's like, it doesn't matter how good the ad looks. It doesn't matter, how cool it is or how creative it is. I mean, those things are icing on the cake if you can pull it off. Right. But at the end of the day, does somebody buy the product or not? Buy the service or not? Make the call or not? Click the button or not? That's what matters.
I think I hear people that, they get into copywriting, or some people get into copywriting because they love the arts and the creativity and the free thinking of writing.
The wordsmithing.
Yeah, the wordsmithing, which is really, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but creativity and originality is certainly overrated, when it comes to writing copy. And in fact, you want to almost shun or stay away from anything having to do with originality.
Yeah. So one of the writers at where I'm, one of my clients, I'll go over and edit her stuff. She does a great job, but she writes by herself, in her little hole like we all do.
Right.
So she'll send it to me for edits, and like every time there's like her writer came out and like there's these like super cute and clever turns of phrase, and I'm like, a little too clever, too cute. I would have done the exact same thing, but like I didn't write it, so I can strike it out real easy.
Yep.
And every time she's like, yeah, I knew that was too cute, too clever, too alliterated. Like alliteration's fine, but if it's 4 words in a row, that's probably too much.
Right.
So I mean, the best copy in the world tends to be on an FK score on a grade level, the sixth grade level.
6th grade, yeah.
And you can't get real fancy if that's the level you're writing at.
No.
So, I mean, I think Reader's Digest is like even lower than that.
Well, look at Donald Trump. I mean, seriously. I mean, as we could go back and use him as a case study time and time again on the master of persuasion.
Yeah.
Regardless of what your politics are, the guy, he speaks to everyone on pretty much a 6th, 7th grade level that most people understand. Your average guy out there can relate to. So, and that's the way copy should be, that you don't get super technical. Like I know a lot of, like in my industry, a lot of companies when, they try to, they're kind of the opposite spectrum where they want to get really super technical, and explain, and to the point where you just lose people. So there's different ways you can go. You got to be somewhere in the middle. I like Bob Bly. That's one reason I gravitate to him, is because he has a background in industrial or chemical sales, or as a chemical engineer. So he understands that, from that standpoint, and why you don't want to get trapped in that area of just getting too technical and describing.
Yeah, I was reading. I'm working on a promotion right now, and I was reading Great Leads, I guess, by I think we did that on the show early on. But they mentioned Bob Bly in there, and how he almost always just defaults to a very direct, simple how-to. Lead and headline just about every single time, and because they're proven, they work. If you look at most bestsellers that aren't nonfiction bestsellers, a lot of them are, very simple. Probably half of them are how-to books. So, I mean, it definitely works to keep it simple.
Yeah.
So, on this first page in here, also he talked about when he set up shop and. He thought he'd see a lot of changes back. He started in 1949 is what the book says. And, but he said he really, at the time of this book, was written, I think, in the 70s. Is that right? Maybe early 80s even?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was 70s.
85. or at least this edition anyway, was 85. But he said he really only seen one change in that time.
Right.
And that was a format change, or a media change, which was television. Television became the go-to for selling. But what he goes on to say is that consumers still buy products whose advertising promises them value for money, beauty, nutrition, relief from suffering, social status, and so on. And it doesn't matter the medium. It doesn't matter, if it's newspaper, radio, TV, now the internet, whatever screen you're on, YouTube. It's still like consumers, that statement is still true.
Yeah.
Consumers still buy products whose advertising promises them value for money, beauty, nutrition, relief from suffering, social status, and so on.
Yep.
And if you remember that, then you'll start at least in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. One thing that I looked at, so we'll jump ahead. I think eventually we'll jump. Was it the next chapter, how to produce advertising that sells? Okay, so I'm jumping ahead. So
that's fine. We're just going to bounce around a little bit.
Yeah, and I kind of started in that chapter because I skipped a little. I kind of skimmed through the introduction, but spent more time, probably the majority of the time in this book on that, because it's kind of that introduction on, okay, here's some bullet points on where you need to start with. If you want to produce copy or advertising that really sells, he lists a number of things. And the first thing he talks about is doing, understanding, doing your research and homework. And we talked about that a number of times. Is like, I think copywriters, sometimes a lot of copywriters, and this because, you've been doing this for so long, but some guys don't do their homework and they take a broad approach to, different products across the industry and think.
Yeah, and if I'm stuck, it's because I haven't done my research.
Right. Yep.
Or I'm amazed at how little research clients will hand over.
Yeah.
They just kind of expect you to come up with stuff, from the copywriter side.
Right.
And it's like,
that's
really? Like, it's like, well, I in my sales conversations with clients when I'm trying to sell them on, hiring me.
Right.
One of the things I'll do an example when they don't have anything to give me. Some companies are great, man. They'll just back the truck up and give me
a ton
more stuff than I can ever read. But then some give me next to nothing. They don't really know what they want. And I'm like, well, imagine Ford came to me.
Yeah.
They said, Sean, we want you to sell our next vehicle. I'm like, great. What is it? And they're like, I don't know. We haven't really decided if it's going to be a car, truck, SUV. And actually, we've got a prototype motorcycle coming out. Maybe you want to tackle that? I'm like, no, can we pick one? And no, man, can you just write something up and kind of sell us?
Right. Generality.
Yeah, sell us as Ford, and then, people want to buy whatever. And I'm like, yeah, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
Let's pick something. Let's pick an SUV and then pick which SUV and then, work it on down. It's amazing how little background stuff companies provide, and then how people are looking for this big idea and they don't realize that the big idea comes out of
the research, all the work that goes into finding out what separates you. Because how do you know, how do you determine what separates your product from everything else without knowing every detail about that product?
Yeah, we talk about Agora a lot because I came from there, and they're a good example of just really good copy. Not big brands, but he talks in here. David Ogilvy talks about when he got a Mercedes account, he said he sent the whole team to Daimler-Benz headquarters. They spent 3 weeks taping interviews with engineers, all kinds of stuff. And most people are not willing to do that, for any given promotion. Right. Most people just want to put something out and they want to get it out quick.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was working at one of the divisions of Agora, we had an idea this was probably 2010, I guess. So HTML5 was coming out, and it was like the biggest of It was a big deal at the time, where everybody thought it was going to be a big deal. So they flew me and the editor out to Austin, for an HTML5 conference, put us up in a hotel. We interviewed people. We looked at people. And, at the end of the day, we were like, there's just not enough here to like really write a promotion. But that's the kind of stuff they were willing to do.
Yeah.
To find that idea. And they knew that.
Even if it wasn't anything that they could use or implement.
But it was another example is I wrote a promotion for, I was writing a promotion. We were looking for just, different, we would spend 2 to 3 weeks just digging, looking for ideas.
Yeah.
So there was a stock that was interesting that the editor gave us, and I started digging around, and literally we go on the website, we'll pull like company reports, we'll pull like the pitches that they do for investors on Wall Street when they do their little Wall Street tour to get backing. And there's some really good info in there.
Yeah.
Like good pictures, like, cause they're selling themselves.
Yeah.
So we found this picture from this one company, and it was of guys in a natural gas field with a huge flame, and it said world record gas discovery. Mm-hmm. We're like, oh, that's good. That's big. World record.
Right.
So we started digging in, and it looked legit, but this company had a history of kind of, a lot of ups and downs. And so the publisher sent the editor all the way to Papua New Guinea. And it literally took him like 40 hours of planes. So what we ended up telling that whole story in the promotion, just like what's the J. Peterman?
Oh yeah.
We did that kind of feel to it. It's like I was on a plane for 40 hours between, a lady with a chicken and a pig, and like we rode a bus into the jungle, and then we took a little motorcycle.
Right.
And it was mosquito infested, but then I got to the oil field, and sure enough, it was the biggest, flame I'd ever seen on a test. And so we just told that whole story. And
that's cool.
But that was, $10,000 worth of research.
Absolutely.
But that promotion after we launched it ended up making $500,000-$600,000.
So percentage wise, from start to finish, would you say probably 80% of your time is spent on as a copywriter is research.
If you want a good promotion, yeah. Like if you just want to throw some stuff together, I mean, you can kind of look at the product and pull some product, teasers out. Yeah. And that's what when you see a lot of the templates online, that's what they are.
Yeah.
Like you just take, the book and you go through the chapter and you pull out some bullet points and things like that. But if you really want to find a really big idea or a big thing, which he talks about here, finding that big idea and how rare they are, it takes that kind of intense research. And just most companies, even the companies that I've worked with, they're just not willing to do that. They don't get that. And so either I have to charge enough that I can go do that personally.
Yeah.
And just have a long enough timeline.
Right.
Or talk them into doing it. But yeah, research is, that's the difference between a good promotion and a blockbuster promotion.
Wow. Yeah.
And the research could show up as like actual research or like tests that you do. Like Onnit Nutrition, Onnit Fitness. They have their Alpha Brain, and he went through the trouble of like getting third-party clinical tests for a supplement, which very few people do. Yeah. But he got like a double-blind study and all this stuff, and he proved that his was, that it actually worked.
Yeah.
So and now that copy is just great. That product is one of their best-selling products.
Yeah.
Because he went through that extra effort.
It pays off.
Yeah, it almost always pays off. Even if it doesn't, you save the marketing dollars and marketing time of going after a bad idea if you do the research and find out there's really not much there.
Right.
So either way, it pays off.
Sometimes you have no clear, after all the research, there is no clear advantage to say,
So you either need to change the product at that point.
Yep.
Add something to it, take away.
Yep.
Do whatever needs to happen to make that product better.
Yeah. Redefine it, rebrand it, whatever.
Yeah.
He talks about positioning and some of the steps. Positioning. We've talked about this many times. How do you position your product? Think of the brands out there they don't serve everybody. Your target, when you're writing copy, your product's got to have a specific, a specific goal in mind. What are you doing? And sometimes it takes, you're actually defining your almost, you look at, we could spend time going through so many ads that have been some of the top ads over the last 100 years. Mm-hmm. And we could look at products that were obscure. We talked about this in the past, but products that really didn't serve the original intended purpose, but come to find out they, after some serious research and discovery, were able to be repositioned and found, just like, I mentioned earlier, and I'll reference this here soon, but this is a great book. It's called the 20 Ads That Shook the World. And one of those we were talking about earlier is Listerine, which was when originally the inventor originally came out with it, served an entirely different purpose than mouthwash, until after research they found, this stuff you got a lot of germs in your mouth, so they actually came up with the definition of bad breath, halitosis, and invented their own problem, term out there that sounds, you just think halitosis, that just sounds awful.
It's like you got toes in your mouth. That is nasty.
But, as a cure to completely, and some of the ads, we'll look at these in a minute after we go through that, but some of the ads, that they use are so funny, just talking about like, women who are always the bridesmaid but never the bride because of, they might have bad breath problems.
That would do it.
But, those things became a primary concern, and the guy, once they realized they had hit on a gold mine, they have ran with it, and to this day, what are they known for? Listerine's for bad breath.
Yeah.
Killing
I think of, he mentions a couple times Dove and how it's super targeted for women and soft skin. Mm-hmm. It's a great positioning, and they've been able to, that's one of the ones he mentions as a big idea. Like, his definition of a big idea is 30 years. Like, it should be around for 30 years. Yeah. And that definitely has.
Yeah.
That,
Listerine.
The Bounty Quicker Picker Upper, that idea has been there for a long time.
Yep.
I think of the Energizer Bunny.
Yep. I was just thinking of that.
Like, as kind of simple and plain as that is, like, still still going.
I will never forget that. Speaking of pink, never forget the pink bunny, even though that's kind of, I think it may have used it a few times recently, but you don't see it quite as much. I used to remember all the TV commercials where they had the bunny out of nowhere, the entirely different commercial. And
it was like a fake commercial, and then he interrupts the commercial.
Like, yep. Yeah. Here comes the bunny beating the drum. Still going. All right. So what else in Ogilvy?
So he kind of distinguishes brand image and goes there. But we were just talking a little bit about the big idea. And he gives 5 kind of key things, 5 questions to ask yourself to know if it's a big idea or not. Yep. And the truth is, and he admits this, like, it's very hard to know if something's a big idea when you first hear it. Mm-hmm. Because I found that a lot of the big ideas, the way he's talking about big ideas, are so simple that you're like, that's not good enough. But like cows selling Chick-fil-A. That's actually a really big idea, and it's been around now. Yeah. It's probably pushing 20 or 30 years, I would think.
If not more. Yeah.
It's been around a long time. So his 5 questions are, did it make me gasp when I first saw it? Mm-hmm. Did I wish I had thought of it myself? Is it unique? Does it fit the strategy to perfection, whatever the strategy would be for that campaign, that brand? And could it be used for 30 years? And that one he puts in italics, because that's really the test. Like, could this stand the test of time for 30 years? And there's not a lot of things that have done that. Yeah. And we've mentioned a few here. And I think another one that did it for a long time, and then they kind of got away from it, was Prudential, Own a Piece of the Rock.
Yep.
That was for quite a while.
Geico, Lizard.
Geico's been doing the lizard for a while, and they have 5 or 6 other things.
Yeah, they do.
They
just kind of spread it amongst a number of different.
Flow
ones.
has been around for a while for Progressive Insurance.
Yep,
like that's now been quite a while. I mean, I'm guessing probably 10 years, maybe 15 years. So that's, and like if I look at that, like I don't know, but for some reason it stood the test of time, and I don't think it's just budget. I mean, I think there's something about it that the positioning is just right, and it just works. And I know my direct response copywriting friends out there are like, well, it's not immediately measurable, so you don't know like whether or not that's working or not. And but they've taken a huge piece of the market, from a market share percentage and growth percentage. They've taken, since that campaign started, they've added a lot.
Absolutely.
So maybe it's just because they're just bludgeoning the market with the
one that I've seen recently, Liberty Insurance,
Liberty Mutual.
Yeah. And they used to have a really catchy, because, I don't know how catchy it is, but it used to stick in my mind. Mm-hmm. Liberty Mutual, because I can hear myself actually humming it in my head after I've heard it. But then they've kind of, seems like recently they've gone away from that to some campaign with the guy and his ostrich, or Limu, or the emu. Yeah. Limu, the emu.
Emu.
The emu.
Yes.
Which I don't know. I don't think that was a great call on their part, because
it was a little clever and
a little too clever,
too cute. Yeah. So yeah. So I mean, I love the idea of the big idea, but it's like if you just wait around or try to find just a big idea, like you'll starve to death.
Yeah.
I mean, the chances of you hitting on it is going to be pretty slim. So you have to get other promotions. You have to get other things out there.
Sure.
And then by doing that, I think you stumble across the bigger idea with the right research, the right positioning,
absolutely,
the right feedback from the market, and all those kind of things. So some of the other ones he talked about was Pepperidge Farms and the horse carriage. That was a big one.
Yep.
And in that same chapter, I had this point underlined from a while back, talking about you're not advertising to a standing army. So he mentions that a lot of people get tired of their ads because they think they're worn out. Yep. And sometimes they are. Sometimes if the results just dive and they're not working anymore, they're not working anymore. That's also a sign that you probably didn't have a big idea. You had a great campaign, but you didn't have a big idea.
Right.
So right now I'm working on a promotion that I think is going to be a great campaign. And I think it'll make a lot of money.
Right.
For about 90 days to 180 days, and I think it'll die. Because it's kind of an offer based. It's it's got a little bit of a gimmick to it, not a lot, but I just don't think it's got the staying power.
Yeah.
And I could be wrong. Like it could end up blowing up and being huge. But my guess is it'll be kind of a shorter lived, make a lot of money, and then we'll have to find something else.
Right.
As opposed to just one of those truly lasting big ideas.
Question I'm sure a lot of people have, what generally separates a successful campaign from a long-lived? And I think there's some different factors there. Some of it has to do with the product itself.
The product, the niche that you're going after. So what he says here is you aren't advertising to a standing army, you're advertising to a moving parade.
Right.
The advertisement which sold refrigerators to couples who got married last year will probably be just as successful with couples who get married this year. A good advertisement can be thought as a radar sweep, constantly hunting new prospects as they come into the market. Get a good radar and keep it sweeping. So a lot of people are doing stuff that's very trendy. Yeah. Like even their products are trendy. So first of all, I think if you're ever going to have a big idea that lasts 30 years, first of all, you have to have a product or service
that's going to last
30 years, right? Like insurance or, anything in those types of services. Even, golf equipment as a brand.
It's going to stand the test of time.
Titleist golf ball. Like no matter what happens, I mean, yes, they upgrade their balls and all that stuff. But they could find, and they haven't really, like nobody in the golf industry has really found a big idea. Like they're always changing, and Titleist is probably pretty close with the number one ball in golf, but that's more of a that's more of a writing checks thing than
absolutely
anything. I mean, they're just writing checks to the big players.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they're
buying the market.
Yeah. But I think of that GX, that club that I, was talking about on a few episodes back, they end up keeping because, I got out and liked it. And obviously the copy, I could see, going through that copy, I could see, minus maybe a few tweaks here and there. But to me, that's copy that'll stand the test of time. 20 years from now, golfers will be dealing with the same thing. Yeah. There'll be high-tech equipment out there and that all the pros are using that they still can't hit the ball with because it's not made for their skill level.
Right. That copy, even if they change the club, will work.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're hitting the big pain points,
right?
And new golfers are coming in all the time.
Yeah, frustrated.
So, I mean, that's
hit the ball, slice.
I was thinking of something. I was thinking of a promotion now, lost it, but there's I know Centerpoint, who does a lot of like personal development stuff and like meditation. They had for a long time, and I don't know if they still do it, but their big idea was meditate as easily as a monk at the press of a button, because it was about listening to recordings,
right?
Like binaural beats or something like that. The one I was thinking about is Harper's Magazine. That thing has been around. The same letter has been mailing for, I think, 40 years now.
Right.
Almost unchanged. And I actually asked Richard Armstrong, who was on one of our episodes, about it, and asked him if he wrote it, because it was very similar to something. He's like, no, I wish. He said, but I do know it was a husband and wife team that wrote it.
Right.
And he said that thing's been around, like for 40 years.
Wow.
Literally almost unchanged. There's another letter from for the Mayo Health Clinic that has been running with very minor changes for almost 30 years. Mark, can't remember his last name, but I met him once, and he went through the whole letter and kind of how he wrote it and everything. But that's one that has stood the test of time.
Right.
But again, it's because it's men's health, and it just, everybody's getting older. Like,
absolutely.
Everybody goes through these cycles.
Yep.
So you're going to continue to just sell that. Just like if you sell an affordable car, like that first car, like, I think of Ford with their, Ford Escort when we were growing up, and now it's the Ford Focus.
Right.
Same basic car, just updated.
Yeah.
But that car, that niche of the market is always going to be there.
Yeah.
And if they could build a campaign around that could last probably a lot longer than just the trendy stuff they're doing now. Mustang.
Get away from cars, though.
Yeah.
Except for the muscle cars.
Yeah. So I mean, there's ways to do it, but I think to answer your question, I think the big thing is to have a fairly evergreen product, even if you have to develop it over the years, with technology changes or thing like that. The little slice of how it serves the market should be evergreen.
Sure.
So if I want my first muscle car, it's probably going to be technically it's a pony car. It's probably going to be a Mustang or a Camaro or maybe now Dodge has come back and you got the Chargers and all those, but it's going to be one of those 3 or 4 cars.
Yeah.
Unless you're into little rockets and stuff,
right.
Rice rockets. So. But yeah, there's some good stuff there, and we could probably keep going.
Yeah.
What else? Do you have anything else in that chapter? Or?
Let's see. Pull up. I think I had a couple of other notes from that chapter alone. Was I just listed out some examples. If you want to spend some, always, I like to think of examples of products that have kind of cornered a market, and we, thinking of, so in the, let's stay within the automotive industry. What signifies, and this is an easy one, what signifies adventure?
Oh, I could do a couple.
What brand?
Land Rover would be one.
Yep.
That's the first one that comes to mind for me.
Okay.
I think of Safari and
right.
and that kind of stuff.
Well, I think of Jeep, but Land
Jeep,
Rover comes to mind too. Jeep, Land Rover, things like that. So you never see. You typically, if you identify Jeep, most people identify it was fun. I mean, you got a Jeep.
Yeah.
Going out, hitting the trail, taking it out, throwing a kayak on the top, going to the mountains, taking it down to the beach with the doors off.
Yep.
It's fun.
Right.
It's fun,
and I think that's probably the word I would use for, at least for my Wrangler. I would use fun more than
right.
That's what I like, or even cool. Like it's one of those universal vehicles that like there's very little. Like if you get a Land Rover or a G-Wagon from Mercedes, like there's both some ego attached to it and some stigma attached to it. Like a Jeep is like almost neutral.
Right.
Like nobody's upset you have a Jeep. Everybody thinks it's cool. Like it's just it's kind of an everyman's car, and it's fun and versatile.
They found a way not to offend anyone.
Yeah, that's amazing. Except probably it uses too much gas or something. I'm sure for some people, but. It's a universal car, but like reward cars, I think Porsche for a long time was like the ultimate reward car. Now there's even now every brand now has that kind of that reward car. The S line on Audi and the F Type on Jags and all those things. So it's. I will say that I thought there was this one thing that was funny, and I was going to use this as a teaser, but he has a chart in here on the gestation of copy and how long it takes a copywriter to write. And he said it falls.
Make a nice screenshot on
the average period of gestation is somewhere between that of hyenas and goats. For example, storyboards for commercials are argued at level after level in the agency and level after level in the client's organization. If they survive, they're then produced and tested. The average copywriter only gets 3 commercials a year on air.
Yeah.
I know when I worked at Agora, our goal was 6 to 8 promotions a year. So, we're probably double that, about 8 weeks. So we were between, in his chart, we'd probably be between skunks and hyenas. But it's just funny that, he obviously has a sense of humor that he would throw that chart in there. That ad agencies take 117 days to create a promotion.
We'll put that screenshot on the show page this week.
Oh, and he also says in here, like you don't see, he points out, search the parks in all your cities, you'll find no statues of committees, and I think that was a quote from somewhere.
Yeah.
The exception to that would be Stone Mountain, Georgia.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Which has which will probably be erased at some point.
Yeah,
they're trying to sandblast it off.
Right.
That's a committee. Also, Iwo Jima.
Oh, that's true.
Iwo Jima is a big committee.
That is true.
So, just had to debunk that saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the most part.
Always exceptions. You can find.
So, I think that's probably a good spot.
We'll stop here.
And then we'll pick up on the next episode with some, we'll dive into another section and pull out your some of those. I'm interested to hear about the 20 ads that shook the world.
Yeah, it's a great book, and we'll hit in some examples, because some of them actually are mentioning Ogilvy's book too. So there's some crossover there. But thanks guys for listening. As always, you find us over at Persuasion by the Pint on any of your podcast platforms, wherever fine podcasts are sold. Persuasionbythepint.com. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.